The fantastic world of the Lotus Sutra. A fairy tale. Before we can start, you will need an introduction to this strange world of the Lotus Sutra. And I'm afraid I'm not going to offer you much help. I'm just going to relate some of the events that happened to me when I entered that strange world, and leave it to you to make your own sense. The best would be just see it as a fairy tale. And after all, don't think, otherwise you might get crazy. Don't ask yourself what it all means. Let your rational mind go to sleep for a while. I heard that the teachings of the Lotus Sutra are aimed at changing people's lives. If we truly enter the marvelous world of the Lotus Sutra, we are likely to be transformed. I wanted to reorient my life, so I hoped that by just entering the realm, I would be transformed. In a dream, I heard the Bodhisattva accumulated wisdom saying, "In the whole world there is not even a spot as small as a mustard seed where the Buddha has not laid down body and life as a bodhisattva for the sake of all living beings." Well, I know Buddha never visited the place where I live, so he never could have laid down his body down there. So I had to travel to the Vulture Peak in India, where I was told I could meet the Buddha face to face. I thought that the Vulture Peak was the real place. However, when I climbed it, I soon left the real world behind and entered a place outside ordinary time and space. When I arrived at the foot of the Vulture Peak, first I had to go through one of the many Dharma doors. I could not make up my mind. There were so many Dharma doors. Through which of them should I enter? I did not want to search around, so I just went through the nearest one. When I entered the gateway, I entered a mysterious, enchanting world. Nothing real, just a world of imagination. I climbed up to the sacred Eel Peak, which seemed to me unreal, even magic. Why? Because here the impossible became possible. The Vulture Peak is a big rock where the Buddha used to stay when he wanted to get away from it all. From the Vulture's Peak, he could see for many miles around. When I finally arrived at the small peak, I found it overcrowded. The yellow-faced Buddha was surrounded by an unimaginable number of beings, both human and non-human, monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen, heavenly beings, dragons, garudas, and many others, including bodhisattvas. And at least 12,000 arahats, those who have reached nirvana by the destruction of all passions. Boring people, I can tell you. I was told that there were about 84,000 bodhisattvas sitting around. Well, I could not count them. There were too many. But at a glance, I estimated that there would be 84,000 of them. Not one more, not one less. Exactly exactly 84,000. After finding a small spot at the edge of the sacred mountain peak, we were all sitting and waiting, and sitting and waiting. I was told that the Buddha would deliver to this huge assembly a great discourse on emptiness. That means speaking about nothing. But we had to wait patiently, because the Buddha had entered deeply into one of the many meditative absorptions or jhanas. I could not even guess which one. So we were waiting and waiting. It seemed quite boring. But suddenly things changed. To entertain the assembly a little bit, suddenly flowers rained from heaven on everybody. I would have preferred some food to eat, or some rain to sip. I was half covered with flowers, only flowers and flowers, and nothing to eat. So I ate some flowers. Oh, they were tasteless. There's everything which falls from heaven. And then the show went on, just to keep us awake. The earth trembled and shook. I feared I would fall from the edge where I was clinging to. So I grabbed the holy robe of one of the bodhisattvas I was squeezed between. He turned to me and gave me a stern look. How can you dare to touch me? I am a bodhisattva. Can't you see that? I bowed to him and begged him forgiveness, because I know if you insult the bodhisattva, you fall into the darkest hell. Then the show went on. From a spot between his eyebrows, the Buddha emitted a ray of pure white light, like a great searchlight, sweeping all around the universe. Later I was told that this light was lighting up 18,000 worlds in all directions of space, so that the whole assembly could see these worlds in great detail, including the heavens and hells, all their living beings, and even their past and present Buddhas. Well, I couldn't see anything, because I did not have the special wisdom eye. Only enlightened beings can see that. All mad people. But in every world system there was much the same thing going on like here on earth. So why should we go somewhere else if it is the same everywhere? We can stay right here. Surely I knew that now I was in a different world, where all these impossible things are possible. It was an enchantment, I suppose. Maybe Buddha hypnotized the whole assembly to see things which were not there. Only in such a magical world flowers rain from the heavens, and Buddha lights up all the worlds with beams of light from his forehead. In the real world, I never saw such things. They would be useless anyway. I didn't want just to sit around only listening. I didn't want to be just a hearer, a Theravadin, because if one is only a hearer, the Mahayanists look down on you. I wanted to participate in the enlightenment game. And how could I participate? Using my imagination to participate in the sutra's world of enchantment. I wondered what was going to happen next. So he asks the Bodhisattva Maitreya, the future Buddha, what is going on? And Maitreya says, I believe. In fact, I'm sure. It means that the Buddha is about to proclaim the White Lotus Sutra. And as Maitreya said this, the Buddha slowly emerged from his meditation. He opened his eyes and sat as though speaking to himself. The truth in its fullness is very difficult to understand. So difficult that only the fully enlightened ones are able to understand it. I ask myself, when nobody can understand it, why is he going to preach it? He could keep his mouth shut and keep the deep wisdom to himself. Buddha said, everybody has to approach the truth gradually, step by step. If I would reveal the highest truth all at once, people would be so terrified that they would be unable to receive and assimilate it. Because people are afraid of reality. And also I know the full truth. I cannot take the risk of revealing it all at once. Then the Buddha looked round the assembly and said, I am not sure whether even now everybody present is ready to hear what I have to say. Well, I was ready. That was the reason I came here. But Buddha said, even the arahats among you do not yet know the highest truth. For there is something more for you to learn. This revelation provoked a dramatic reaction. 5,000 of the disciples present simply got up and walked away. They murmured among themselves, something more to learn? That's impossible. We are enlightened. What is the Buddha talking about? Maybe he is getting a bit senile. Something more to learn? Not for us. Then they gave the Buddha a little bow, just for old times' sake, and out they went, shaking the dust from their sandals. I immediately knew that was a trap into which this yellow-faced wanted us to fall. He wanted us to fool ourselves into thinking that there's nothing more to learn. That is the biggest danger of all. And the 5,000 disciples fell into the trap. However, the Buddha didn't say anything. He just let the disciples go. And when they had gone, he said, now the assembly is quite pure. Now everybody present is prepared to consider that there may be something more for them to learn. But he did not show us nothing new, just old stuff. The Buddha said, now I'm going to reveal the highest truth to this pure assembly. My previous teaching of the three jhanas was only provisional. In reality, there's only one way, Ekayana, the great way, the Mahayana. All the other different ways are useful up to a certain point, but ultimately they all converge in the great way. If anyone offers even a flower of its faith and devotion, he is already on the path to Buddhahood. I felt sorry that I did not bring any flower. Otherwise, I could have been on the path to Buddhahood. And the flowers that fell from heaven had already disappeared. They were only imaginary flowers. On hearing this, Sariputra, the oldest and wisest of the Buddha's disciples, said, "Also I am old. I am willing to learn. I only regret that I have spent so long at the lower level of understanding." But the Buddha encouraged him. He said, "At a time in the distant future, you too will realize supreme enlightenment. Do you want to know the name you will have in 5,000 years from now on?" Sariputta said very humble, "No, that is not important." But not all disciples were like Sariputta. Some of them were rather disturbed by the new teaching. They asked themselves, "Have we been wasting our time, our life? Was the old practice completely useless?" Then, suddenly, something extraordinary happened. In the midst of the embassy, from the depths of the earth, there springs up a magnificent stupa which towers into the sky. But the stupa is made not of bricks or stones, not even of marble, no, of gold, silver, lapis lazuli, and moonstone. It is beautifully decorated with flags and flowers, and it is emitting light, fragrance, and music in all directions. Can you imagine the scene? All the disciples are astonished. Only the Buddha isn't astonished. And as they gaze up to the stupa in amazement, from the midst of it there comes forth a thunderous voice which cries, "Excellent, excellent Sakyamuni, you are a great magician." Then the Buddha was speaking for a long time until everybody was fast asleep. That preaching went on and on. I fell asleep several times, even sitting. And every time I woke up, it was the same stuff again. Though during the hours I was sleeping, I did not miss anything. The preaching of the Lotus sermon he promised at the beginning never took place. It was only a lengthy introduction without any teaching. So the Lotus Sutra is empty at its very center. Was that another skillful means? Talking and talking without saying anything? If this was intended to spark an awakening, it did not work with me. It caused only dizziness and sleep. Then this golden-faced Buddha seemed to be exhausted, and he retreated into deep meditation. I thought that was it, but no. Now 16 Bodhisattva novices went on to preach and explain the sutra. I asked a grown-up bodhisattva at my side, how long will the teaching go on? He said, a little sleepy, for 84,000 aeons. That was enough for me. I tried to get up, but my legs were so stiff from this long sitting. Slowly I stretched out one leg. Then I had to wait until I could stretch out the other leg. Finally, I could stand up. But how could I get through all the 84,000 bodhisattvas without stepping on their holy feet? It was a difficult task, but it sharpened my mindfulness. When I finally reached the foot of the Vulture Peak, I was nearly enlightened.